Good afternoon, YouTubers, and welcome to the second half of the first series of Quaxxed. And you notice that the first 15 minutes I covered Dorrit Reese and some clothing she was wearing from 1987 and how it is more important for anti-vaxxers to insult her clothing and her child than it is to actually come up with an argument that makes any sense about how they feel about Dorrit Reese. So please watch part one. First, so that you understand exactly what I'm talking about here in part two. Now, I want to point out in part two that I had to cover specifically and only in part two somebody that I like to refer to as pt2. I don't know how you say her last name, but she's kind of a titj or a titmouse. I also refer to her as Miss Info Ass-Faced Mama, or Manic Apeshit Mama on occasion, and just saw the best referral of her by somebody else, Kate Faces of Meth Titj. Now, as I had said, Dorrit Reese, the professor and lawyer who supports the mandatory school vaccination bill in California, is being attacked by these women not because she supports that bill, but because apparently she was wearing clothing that they found unappealing and because she has children. That's the only thing I can conclude through this logic. Now, if you would like to see more of these comments, and there's a plethora of them, I tell you, you can go to Peace, Love, and Threats from Anti-Vaxxers page on Facebook. Now, let's talk a little bit about Kate Titj. She's also known to the rest of the world as Modern Alternative Mama. You can see her on Facebook, you can see her on YouTube, she has a blog, and I have always found her to be, well, an idiot. Let's put it that way. She homeschools her children, which scares the hell out of me as somebody who also homeschooled their children, that her children are going to end up to be equally as ignorant and equally as suspicious as she is. Now, I am quite the wooberry, and I will buy into pretty much anything. And and there is ample proof out there that supposed conspiracies from the past, theories from the past, have come out to be shown as true. However, this woman rivals my mind in what she will believe. She rivals my manic, conspiracy-laden Swiss cheese mind. Hers must be filled with syphilis. And may I suggest to you, Manic Apeshit Mama, that you go to the doctor immediately to get something for this these paranoid delusions that have been caused by syphilis or meth, whichever. Immediately. We're very concerned. We're really concerned about you getting back on the wagon. We don't know what you have underneath your kitchen counter that you think is organic, but maybe you should consider going back on the wagon, putting down the bottle and or the snort pipe, and getting your chip, your first chip at NA or AA. And here's why. This is what she has to say about Dorrit Reese. Now, Dorrit Reese is not only a lawyer and a professor and a mother, she also is a blogger. And she's a very busy woman. She has a lot going on in her life. Kate says, I've seen many pictures of her and she looks very different in several of them. Really? Really? Are these all you, Kate? I honestly don't think she is one person. I think there are several using her name. Otherwise, she couldn't be in all the places so many hours a day and have a child and a job. So first of all, that means that there's at least 4 of you here, and there's going to be a 5th following her, following Dorrit around, if you know how many places and things Dorrit is doing all of the time. Okay? Seriously. I mean, if you're so busy with your blog and your YouTube and your Facebook and your children and your homeschooling, there's got to be more than one of you, right? Now, for those of you who don't understand what she's actually talking about when she says she's more than one person, there are several different conspiracy theories that our nutty syphilis-filled friend could be considering. One of them could be that she's a bot. In other words, that the several people pretending to be she, that anybody that can be she online and not show themselves, she could then be billed, they could be billed as Dorrit Reese. Or she could be discussing the great, what's called well-aware or Dallas gold bug conspiracy thought process. And that's that everybody out there is being portrayed by an actor or actress, okay, or another person of fame. That when it gets to be too much, we kill off one of the personas, because we need these personas to go out there and perform for the institutions, to perform for the corrupt government, to perform for the corrupt media at all times. These are the type of people who believe that, oh, Natalie Holloway is Chelsea Clinton, and they had to kill off Natalie Holloway because Chelsea Clinton had too many things to do as Chelsea Clinton and couldn't do both jobs. Or that Vince Foster, who was killed, during the Clinton administration while he was investigating them, is actually Mike Huckabee, but he couldn't take time to be both people, so they killed off Foster and he stayed only Huckabee. My personal favorite is that, that actor Tony Shalhoub is actually a Syrian man, is the Syrian Abdul al-Hadi, who is the leader of I believe ISIS, and he also is Omar Mohammed Fareed, who is another gentleman who works with, I believe, the Islamic Brotherhood. So Tony Shalhoub has 3 jobs, but at some point they became so overwhelming that we had to kill off Adab al-Hadi, because now he can only work 2. So that is what she's talking about when she's talking about being many people. So basically what it is that they take an actor and they make up all these personas, and to help further their Illuminati New World agenda. And then what happens is that they pick these actors to come along, put on a fake nose, or put on a bit of a putty ear, and maybe put in some contacts and pretend they're somebody else, so that they can have this enemy, or write these blogs for the institutions and for Big Pharma, Big Harma, any of these things. That's what apparently Kate, in her meth-laden, alcohol hazed stupor, believes that is going on here. Just so you know. This is what I find to be some of the most interesting stuff on the planet, no matter how messed up it is. So these are the arguments that are being used, okay? That one, for Dorrit Reese. That one, Dorrit dresses in an inappropriate, slovenly way in 1987. That two, she shouldn't have her children because they look healthy, even though they have pink skin on their cheeks, which means they're vaccine injured, and that she's an ass clown. And 3, that she's actually not one person, and probably isn't even Dorrit Reese. There is some actress out there pretending to be Dorrit Reese, and is also probably pretending to be 5 or 6 other people, so that we can have a Dorrit Reese out there that can talk about how she is an authoritative person who supports Pfizer, supports Merck, supports whoever, and is in support of this bill. And then probably what will happen is that as soon as the Illuminati and the powers that be are done with Dorrit Reese, they will kill her off, so that that actress pretending to be Dorrit Reese can go back to her regular life being whoever the hell she is. Okay? But now for the absolute piece de la resistance. In all of this, when you go to visit these, okay, you need to think about how modern alternative mama and how these other women thought that they had done some great service to America by showing Dorrit in her pink sweater from the 80s in front of a Pfizer sign. They also had this vision that they had exposed the fact that she's been so busy, and who is she? Okay? She had to talk about Modern Alternative Mama and the others had to discuss how, busy Dorrit Reese is and how they had exposed the actual Dorrit Reese as being one other person. And that person is Reasonable Hank, the blogger. Now, I don't know what to tell everybody else, but even though I could not remember her name in the beginning, I have been on Reasonable Hank's Facebook page for a while and been reading Reasonable Hank for a while. And I remembered that Reasonable Hank was 1, a woman, and 2, a lawyer. And so it did not surprise me to find out that said lawyer and said professor and said woman was probably Dorrit Reese when said so. But apparently these women, this was their piece de la resistance, that they figured out that Dorrit Reese is Reasonable Hank. So once again, we have not bothered to, discuss our concerns about vaccination. We have not bothered to show enough correlating evidence that proves that vaccinations are dangerous enough for us to stop the mandatory vaccination bill in California. We have just fallen flat on our asses, and all we've been able to do is insult a woman's clothing from the 80s, which is not that difficult to do, as I said before, considering the clothing of the 80s. Make fun of somebody's minor child that had nothing to do with the situation at hand. Discuss the fact that she might be multiple people pretending to be one person, and come up with a somewhat reasonable, quote-unquote, conspiracy theory, and then, in the end, show everybody that we know what everybody else already knew, that Dorrit Reese is Reasonable Hank. And how did Dorrit Reese handle this? Well, as she says, if you want to see a bunch of conspiratorial anti-vax scumbags being scumbags in public, check out this thread. And you guys have a skippy-doo amen day.